What started as Lucy Connolly's first interview since her prison release quickly became a political earthquake, live on GBNews. The former political prisoner faced tough questions about her controversial social media posts during the summer riots. But then came the bombshell moment that stunned the entire studio. Connelly directly accused Prime Minister Keir Starmer of interfering with Britain's justice system, claiming she was his political prisoner and victim of two-tier justice. Watch the clip.
Before this, I want to say a big thank you to all our supporters who helped us reach our very first 1,000 subscribers. That achievement truly means a lot and inspires us to keep giving you our best. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do it now. Most people who watch our videos aren't actually subscribed. We know life gets busy, but subscribing is completely free and it really helps us grow. Our next goal is 3,000 subscribers, and with your support, we can get there even faster. You can also support the channel by checking out the links in the description, where you'll find some valuable books. They cost you no extra, but each purchase gives us a small commission that helps us improve our content. Thank you so much for being part of this journey.
I believe Lucy Connolly was Keir Starmer's political prisoner. And that is the damning indictment by Lucy Connolly herself in her first bombshell interview since her release from prison. What Connolly revealed, in my strong opinion, is that she was a victim of two-tier justice with exceptional thanks to Sir Keir Starmer. Telegraph journalist Alison Pearson has stated on X that Lucy never saw the paperwork which every prisoner gets. She had no idea her plea was 1A, the most serious charge for her lawyer could have opted for. That's the words there of Alison Pearson from The Telegraph. Of course, Lucy was held in prison, on remand, not giving her space to consider her situation. Her case was rushed through the court, and even she claims that the legal advice she received stated that she was going to prison regardless of her plea. And she was then denied bail and handed a heavier sentence than some even convicted paedophiles. So what is Keir Starmer's role in all of this? Well, he called for cases to be rushed through the court. He smeared all protesters as far-right thugs. He declared all those arrested would be held on remand. He said all charges will be followed through and there will be convictions.
Condemn the far-right thuggery we've seen this weekend. Those that have participated in this violence will face the full force of the law.
Well, I'd like to bring in my panel to talk about this a little bit more, and where else better to start than our in-house lefty and Keir Starmer lovey, Kai Wilshaw. Kai, listen, I think the evidence is pretty clear. Lucy Connolly's interview the other day was damning for the Prime Minister, damning for the government. Why did the Prime Minister feel it was necessary to get involved in our legal system?
I really don't see the connection here, Alex. I think it's bonkers for you to suggest, and quite insulting for political prisoners, actual political prisoners across the world, for you to suggest that this is in any way comparable. And in any case, there's 1.1 million convictions in this country, right? And we're focusing on social media crimes that only account for about 44 of those convictions. So really, this has been...
But that's like saying there's only a few murders here and there, but we'll tolerate those murders because the most of them are just crimes of theft. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely bonkers.
No. But what we're really getting at, what we actually have in this country is a completely broken justice system.
We do.
It's not two-tier justice like you claim. And you claim it very well by cherry-picking cases that do, on the face of it...
Prime Minister's own words, Kai.
On the face of it, look ridiculous. But obviously she's been hard done by, Lucy Connolly. But to extrapolate that out and make this an endemic problem is actually quite ridiculous.
Well, I'll come on to you, because I think it's absolutely tragic that anybody's locked up for free speech, by the way. I think every single person should be terrified that you can be locked up for a tweet.
Absolutely terrified, and people were and are, and that was the whole point of Lucy Connolly going to prison so quickly, because he wanted people, this is Starmer, he said it, that there will be swift justice, jail sentences, and it was dished out. But just to go to your data, because I know you love it,
I do.
417 people were charged.
Is where, Lucy Connolly, she's quite a sympathetic victim, I agree. I think she did regret what she did.
What about the man who killed
You're not talking about those people who had offensive weapons in their flat, who reposted screenshots of the offensive and vile things that they said. That's exactly the kind of people who were locked up exactly the same time as Lucy Connolly. And
OK,
as
all right, I want to bring in Lauren. Lauren, what do you make of this situation with Lucy Connolly?
I think that there is a problem with two-tier justice in this country, but I don't don't believe it's the one that you think that there is. I think it's an access to legal advice issue. My understanding is that Lucy Connolly confessed guilt in advance of taking legal advice, after which any defence is incredibly difficult, whether or not it's in front of a judge at a plea bargain or whether or not it's in front of a jury trial. And it's entirely possible that the legal advice that flowed from that wasn't brilliant, but put her in front of a judge rather than in front of a jury of her peers who may well have found her also equally guilty of what she was charged with, which was inciting racial hatred. Now, there are very clear tariffs for inciting racial hatred. Had she been charged with something else, the tariffs would have been very different. But I also think, and I know that Renee disagrees with me, there is more space in the women's prison estate than there is in the men's, which is why you will see, I think, convicted paedophiles out on licence when this woman was able to be put in prison because there was a space for her.
OK. Renee, do you want to come back on that quick? Then I'll bring in Chris.
Well, yes, because most of those people jailed were actually men, so that's why that doesn't stack up. I agree with you about the judiciary. But let's just talk about one other case. Peter Lynch, Grandad. Do you know why he was jailed?
Go on.
Holding a placard up.
Yeah, and exactly my point. You're cherry-picking cases.
What did the placard say?
Your own
The
agenda,
placard
Renee.
said that the media was corrupt, something to that offence.
The media was corrupt.
Yeah, there you go.
And then he ended up hanging himself, which is
In prison.
terrible.
Which is, it's a horrible...
Well, let me bring you in.
But
Yeah, it
Lucy
was.
Connolly was rushed, and it was only because the Prime Minister stood up on that podium and said, we're going to rush this, we're going to rush through these cases. We're going to call out this far-right thuggery. There'll be arrests, and then there'll be convictions, and you will not like it. Pretty much almost what he said word for word there. If the Prime Minister gets involved and says, I'm going to make a political statement, it's about the justice system and how I'm going to now make it faster and quicker and harder and tougher on people who are getting involved in this protest here, then surely...
Then I'd like Starmer to try and, make this story go away, and I'd like him to do a little experiment.
Go on.
I'd like him to stand up on Monday and say that everybody up for a sex crime has to have had it been dealt with by Christmas.
There you go.
And we'll see if his intervention has any bearing on the speed at which those cases, famously slow cases, famously hard to adjudicate,
very different.
How is it different?
It's very different. The country was in a febrile state. There were riots on the television.
You don't think that there's a crisis of crimes against women in this country?
I do, but not to the point where it's on the news every time.
It should be. Crimes against women in this country should be on the news every single night, and they are not.
So the situation with Starmer standing up and saying that is entirely...
Well, that's why I'm saying it should be an experiment. You should stand up on Monday and see if it has the same impact. It does not.
It doesn't.
Of course
Exactly.
it doesn't.
Because we have a separation of the judiciary and the political systems in this country.
But also, I would argue that there's a clear political divide on this, right? With the women's issue, I genuinely tend to believe most good people are aligned.
Yeah.
Although I do think the case that we're talking about here, which for the following up of the riots, became very political, and that the Prime Minister coming out and saying these are far-right thugs was political in itself. He then, in my opinion, influenced the legal system, where to the extent where legal advice to the CPS, the judges, and everyone's going, Prime Minister saying we need to lock people up, we need to convict, let's crack on with it, doing it faster, quicker, and harder.
I think we're overlooking the fact that it's entirely possible, in fact, it's plausible, that a jury of her peers would also have found her guilty.
Interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. Chris, when it comes to Lucy Connolly, do you think she's going to sort of be this free speech champion now she's released from prison and she's able to go and speak to anyone she likes?
Well, she's already done an interview, hasn't she, with...
Yeah.
The Mail did it, I think.
Telegraph with Alison Pearson and Dan Wilson's show as well.
She's going to get offers left, right and centre, isn't she?
She's talking to Trump's administration.
Well, I think there was a little bit of confusion as to whether that was
Is it
real
Dan
or not.
Wooten?
Yeah,
She's done an interview with?
That's correct.
She's
That's
done
correct.
it, and
I'm not sure whether she is going to speak to the Trump administration, but do you think, Chris, like when it comes to America, because America has been taking quite a keen interest in free speech, I don't know whether she is meeting the Trump administration. There's been some confusion about whether that's actually taking place. But do you think someone like Lucy Connolly will have an international impact? Because she's quite an ordinary person, isn't she?
yeah, of course, because Keir Starmer sat in the White House and told them that we have free speech and we don't have censorship and stuff. And what she did, she obviously tweeted and she got locked up for 31 months. So I think Keir gaslights the British public massively, and he was very, very quick to the far-right thugs, the far-right racist and stuff. And if you look at what actually happened at Southport, then people are just absolutely frightened and worried. They're children. Yeah. I've got young girls myself. You know what I mean? I would probably do the same, not to a degree of what these. But I find it absolutely mental how he just comes out, far right, you're racist, did it? He puts everyone in one basket. And I hope she wipes the floor with them, to be honest.
Yeah, and listen, I know she's regretted saying what she said, and she's come out and said, I don't condone violence, and nobody should condone violence. Nobody wants... I don't think she's even said, I didn't mean to incite any hatred at all. She was just having a moment. She thinks she described it as a red mist that falls over her, which I think is perfectly human. Just the difference is in 2025, this is where the law is just not fit for purpose anymore, Public Communications Act, but it's somewhere along those lines, is that it isn't fit for purpose, and therefore people put words up on the internet and they never go away anymore.
Yeah.
This is why I find the Free Speech Union to be so interesting, because we do have a protection for freedom of expression in this country. We have Article 8 under the ECHR converted into the Human Rights Act in 1998, and the Free Speech Union has a much better understanding of how to protect on issues of free speech. So, I think, there's a lot of lefties who come on when there's a protest. It's like, don't talk to the police, don't say anything. I think our side of the argument also has to say, if you're arrested at a protest, don't say anything.
Well,
Find a lawyer.
I'll fight for it. And I don't believe Ricky Jones should have gone to prison either. I don't believe that should have ever happened. I want everyone to have freedom of speech in this country, no matter how vile I might find it.
Even saying